All right. Well, here we are. So it's 4:30 in the morning. Believe me, I'm tired. It's just been such a fucking busy last few days, and really that has nothing to do with you. It has more to do with me. I'm up in Santa Barbara because Nico is 2.5 and he's not talking yet. And that's disconcerting to some degree. Well, to a large degree. I mean, that's like the one thing that's a bit off with him. He's not talking. He's smart. I taught him how to swim. You can tell him to do like, hey, go grab the ball. And he'll get like a basketball, bring him to you. Some children start talking at 3. I think Karina's sister, her son started talking at 3. I know a lot of people have told me that it's nothing to worry about, but we went there today. We had to come up to Santa Barbara to do that. And then, my dad just had a stroke. So I tried to spend some time with him and my mom. And then I had to go over to Jeff's house and we had to convert all these old VHS tapes that we needed for the documentary that we hadn't put in yet. And that was just this whole fucking thing. Tomorrow I have another appointment with Nico. And thank you guys, everyone that, had participated in the Sinister raffle. That was unexpected. Basically, I just went to his house because I was going to start doing a piece for Tedford. He contributed quite a bit to the different charity events we had. So I told him that I would make a piece with Sinister. And I went over there and he had all this shit laying around. I was like, hey, can we raffle some of this off? And can you give me half of it because you're using my channel? And that's it. We'll get into what happened with the raffle in the next video. Please no, I'm just kidding. Could you imagine if that was the video? You guys would be so fucking mad. And I feel bad, like, I really do feel obligated to provide content every day. I've been trying to do that. I put the Nick interview up. There's other Nick interviews. There's ones with Jim, Johnny, stuff that you guys will find of interest. But, I think I've posted, I don't know, there's probably about 10 interviews that you guys haven't seen. Mark Boone Jr. from Sons of Anarchy. My aunt, who's talking shit about me the whole time. She's like, I think he's gay. I'm like, what the fuck? She says that. It's the weirdest shit. I'm definitely putting that in the movie. She says that. She's like, I think he's gay. He likes rap. It's like, what the fuck? What does that have to do with anything? She's like, so what? I was like, okay. And she said all this fucked up shit about me throughout the whole video. But it's kind of like why we interviewed her. Like some of the people that we interviewed, we kind of wanted them to talk shit. Like I interviewed certain people that like, I wanted to interview my ex-wife. You are such a drug addict. That bitch, right? Karina doesn't want me to do that, so I'm not going to do it. I think it would make an interesting interview. At a time she was down, I haven't talked to that girl in years, and now that I've put like all of our deepest, darkest secrets on YouTube, I'm probably going to get sued by her eventually. It was weird. Her mom wrote me this horrible letter a couple months ago. I think I posted on Patreon, as a matter of fact. And then her stepmom just wrote me one like a couple weeks ago and was thanking me for putting her on blast. Because she's like, the kid doesn't deserve it. And it's kind of, now that I have my own kid, I know I've commented on it before, but it makes me feel bad because now that I'm a father, I realize how much love you have to give a child, and that kid didn't get any love. I was mean to that child. I mean, I never, I wasn't like abusive or anything, but I was drunk, I was like I was the classic drunk stepdad, I don't know. I guess there's worse drunk stepdads than me. I guess the worst thing that I did to him is the way that I talked to his mom in front of him. And I honestly, I don't consider myself a bad person, but I consider things that I've done in my past bad. That's definitely something that I regret. But I don't know. I've said before, if I make it big, I definitely want to open a trust for that kid. Just hook him up and be like, least I can do is try to give, you know, pave the way for you to have a better future, maybe pay for his college, whatever. I've told Karina that. She's like, fuck that fool. I'm like, he's like 10, babe. She's like, fuck him and fuck your ex. I'm like, all right. And she's like, let's Eskimo kiss. I'm like, okay. And she's like, your dick stinks. All right, let's get into the story. So, it's all right. You know, I have to do little warm-ups, but I really felt that it was important to get a video up, even though it's 4:30 in the morning. I'm tired as fuck. It doesn't matter. You know, this is what I do, so I'm going to do it. There's one more exclusive series that I want to do this month, on my book, where I'll like read a chapter and I'll explain to you, like what was going on when I was writing that chapter, what the chapter's about. That may sound boring as fuck, but I was explaining it to Jeff tonight, and he's usually a good, person for me to like, you know, tell him I'm going to do. What's the fucking word I'm trying to find here? He's a good person to offer an opinion about what people would like. You know, he gives ideas, and he's like, you should talk about this. And so I do. Told me I should do a sex series. I don't know. If you guys want that, I'll do it. It's got to be a higher tier, though, because those are videos that I could be blackmailed with Karina. I haven't cheated on her. I'm just saying, you know, some pretty grimy fucking sex adventures that I've been in, you know, butt fucking conga lines, the norm. All right, let's for real get into the story. I already know people are going to get mad, and I want people to wake up. You have a nice one. I'm still going to be in Santa Barbara tomorrow. Get another one. And, you know, just get back in the flow. So thank you guys. Where we had left off last time, it's an interesting time in my life, and recounting it story-wise, even though this is recently, and as much as I don't want to admit that, or I don't like to admit it, it's going to be interesting. I don't know if these stories are going to go on YouTube. Eventually, I think I'm phasing YouTube out. I think I'm just going to do Patreon for a number of reasons, but mainly just because there's a lot of mean people on there, you know? But it's hard to admit that I was actually using heroin and all these other drugs this recently. And also the chronology gets a little confusing in my mind. So I did watch the tail end of last video. So I know that we were talking about when we had gone to my drug dealer. I think I called him Casey. He had a girlfriend named Danny. And then there was that black chick that was topless. Hold that in your mind. And let me tell you things that led up to what happens with all that. So you guys know that I'm strung out. I had gotten an offer through my manager from a TV show that you guys would definitely know. I had to sign an NDA. Basically, they run a show. Okay, first of all, a lot of reality TV is staged. I don't know if you knew that, but like on Jersey Shore, it's scripted. They practice scenes. You know, sometimes just there's certain contrivances, you know, like the situation's abs are CGI'd. I made that up, but stuff like that, right? Maybe like The Bachelor or something, it's predetermined who's going to win. Producers make decisions. Sometimes it really is scripted stuff. For instance, Copbusters was scripted, but we were presenting it as if it was real. My manager had gotten an offer. I'm not sure if I talked about it in the last video, but he had gotten an offer for me to go on a TV show. And I signed an NDA, so I can't tell you which one, where I would be going to jail. I'm sure you can guess which one. I had to go there for a while, and I was going to get paid for it. And they wanted me to be on the show because they said that I was articulate and that I have a really bomb personality and that I could blend in there because I've done time already. Basically, the show is about people in jail. So I was going to be like their fucking, you know, ant farm experiment. Now, what they told me is that I think there's a handful of people that they pick to go on that show that are actually outside participants. The rest of the people in the jail are actually doing time there. The guards don't know that I'm like one of the cast members or whatever. The only person that knows is the warden. My manager presents this to me. He goes, "Do you want to be on this reality show?" I said, "Yeah." "Do I get paid?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, what do I have to do?" He's like, "You need to go to jail." I was like, I had just gotten out, we're talking, this is in the winter, right? I had just gotten out in March. I was down for it. I didn't know what they were going to pay me yet, but he wanted to set up the call for me the following day. So the day that I had told you about in the last video, where I had driven up from LA to Santa Barbara, dope sick, I'd gone over to my friend's girlfriend's house, Danny's house. I'd taken a dab, saw the black chick without a shirt on. I had gotten a call that day that I forgot to mention that this TV show was a real possibility. Like I could be on this TV show. You got to understand where I'm at this point. YouTube had just started. Patreon wasn't going yet. I had some people that were giving me donations. I had merchandise that was being made, blotter, stuff like that, signed books. Really hard for me to juggle all that. Still is to this day. Thank God I have Joe to help me with that shit. It's hard for me to do stuff like that. It's just my mind is just, it's so scattered. I'm such a messy person. I'll find like a package I was supposed to send someone like 9 months ago. There's like a dead kitten in it. I'm like, fuck. And I had like poked holes in it to try to keep it alive, but it stinks. And I can't even smell it because my dick stinks and it's like wafting through my pants. Yeah, I'm that guy. I'm a dirtbag. I don't think I've showered for like 2 days right now. Who cares? Point is I needed money. And being a father, I'm one of those guys that I'm pretty much willing to do anything. You heard me. Anything for money. Not because I'm greedy, because I'm really not. Like, I don't really buy myself shit ever. Everything that I have on, pendant, chain, gift from my mom, wife beater was a gift from Karina, hoodie was a gift from Joe. I'm not wearing pants. I'm just standing here pantless right now, wearing slides. I did buy the slides. That's one thing I did pay for. Generally, I don't buy myself nice shit, I'm all about keeping my family sustained. Feels good to be able to bring groceries, to the table. Feels good to be able to pay rent and to provide a roof over their head. It feels like I accomplished something. That is an accomplishment to me. And YouTube didn't seem like a viable career. Writing, the documentary, all of that, I still held on to the fact that eventually that would do something. But it was like the kind of thing where, when like guys are rapping in their mid-40s and like they were all about it, but now they're like 47 and they still don't have a deal. And you're like, I don't know, man. Maybe you should try jazz or something. I don't know if the hip hop's working for you. I think I saw that on a meme one time. And it's fucking true. And it was the same kind of thing. It was like, if I wasn't able to start supporting myself financially through my creative stuff, which I would include with just verbal storytelling, even though they're true stories, it's still a certain delivery and like, there's a certain way to compose them where they're effective. And sometimes I'm not there. Like, that's what's difficult with the subscription models. Like, sometimes I'm like, fuck, I'm not in the mood. And like, there's videos, and I think one day I will do a series where it's like outtakes, because I'll be like halfway through and I'll just say something ridiculous and I'll just be like, fuck, I don't know. That may be saying too much, but I've said some, and then like I'll watch those outtakes later, like months later, I'll find one and I can appreciate them. But the point is my future seemed uncertain. So I was down to go to jail. It was only for a few months. and I was going to get paid, but I didn't know how much I was going to get paid yet. So going to this modeling shoot with Karina, another thing that we were doing to try to come up on some money, you know, it's like I was thinking, okay, I'm going to take this phone call with this production company. They were based on the East Coast, and they were really interested in me. I just had to close them on the phone, and that's pretty much one of the only skills I have in life is closing people on the phone. It's like, you know, I used to sell LA Times subscriptions, and I'm the annoying telemarketer. And like sometimes I'll just talk to people and have a conversation for no reason if I'm bored at a telemarketing place. Start telling them about how I do meth and look at my own asshole in the mirror, and you know, they're like, man, that's fucking funny. I still ain't buying nothing. I'm like, fuck. I'm not gonna be able to bring groceries home to my family now. So I was just, you know, without saying the same thing over and over again, I was pretty much down just to do whatever. And I was down with going to jail and getting paid for it. I just didn't know how much. I had gotten a gram the night before from my drug dealer. And I had to go do this modeling shoot. So when Karina went to sleep, I did a shot. Now there's a weird thing with Suboxone. When you take Suboxone, we've talked about it before, you can go into precipitated withdrawal if you take it too early. I've done that a million times. I always cite this one. The worst precipitated withdrawal I'd ever been in was with my ex-wife. You are such a drug addict. She went to Denver for a week. She came home. I got strung out of my I was so strung out when she was gone. Like, I didn't even look. I looked like I aged like 10 years. And, you know, she knew right away. But I was denying. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I started a new fitness regimen since she'd be gone. She's like, you look like shit, and you stink, and you're on drugs. And she was right. Next day, it was her son's Christmas Carol fucking elementary. He was like in kindergarten, so we had to go to this presentation. Now, I'd planned it out. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a Suboxone day of the Christmas Carol thing, because we had to like go to the school and sit in the auditorium. That's when I'm going to make my transition to Suboxone, and she's not going to know. I keep denying, because she's like, I'm going to catch you. You're going to have to do a shot, and I'm going to be vigilant with it. Well, the problem was I had run out, and I think that I can't remember because that was in 2016, but I want to say that I had run out of money. You know, I mean, that happens. You're in the middle of a run, and I mean, I never really stopped any junkies, but like, I'm one of those people that kind of like runs out of steam eventually. You know, I'm just like, I just don't have the energy to hustle anymore. And that was one of those time periods. But I did have a bunch of Suboxone, so I could make that transition. She ends up walking her kid to school the next morning. I wake up, and I'm in a puddle of ammonia-smelling sweat. And for those of you that have never done an opiate or have never gone through heroin withdrawal or any opiate withdrawal for that matter, the oddest thing happens when you're sick. You get this amplification of scent. So you can smell everything. You know, it smells like, for some reason it smells chemically like ammonia. And then it also has that very distinct smell of rotting carcass, like a dead raccoon or something. So imagine a dead raccoon with ammonia, having volcanic diarrhea, and premature ejaculation. There's some people that are just like that on the cuff. Could you imagine? Diarrhea all the time. Every time you fuck, you nut in like 2 seconds. And your personality sucks too. You're just, fuck, give up. There's things you can do though for the premature ejaculation. I would imagine there's things you can do for the volcanic diarrhea. But anyway, she ends up walking her kid to school. I'm in this puddle of fucking disgusting dope sick sweat. It's gross. It's like making snow angels and urine-laced snow or something. That's what it's just disgusting. I wake up, I'm just like, ugh. At the time, I was shooting my Suboxone. Doctors will tell you that you can't shoot Suboxone strips because of the naloxone in it, that somehow they put the naloxone in there so you can't abuse it. Bullshit. I'm not telling anybody to shoot Suboxone. I've done it like tens of thousands of times probably. Put the strip in a spoon, add water, put a cotton in there so you don't barb the syringe, which means when you say barb a syringe, the tip of a needle, if it touches a metallic spoon, it barbs it. So it makes like a little kind of like invisible, you know, little bend or something. So when you stick a barbed needle in your arm, it like makes a hole. All of my fucking needles are barbed because I'm just a really messy, sloppy guy. But I still put the cotton in for good measure. It's just part of the whole thing, right? So I ended up making the Suboxone shot. I go in the bathroom. I have this very limited window. I know she's coming right back. I'd been sick. She came. I'd missed her flight the day before. I was supposed to pick her up at LAX. I was late. She was yelling at me. I never picked up more heroin. And here I am in the bathroom thinking that I feel sick enough. Now remember, if you don't wait long enough with Suboxone, you go into precipitated withdrawal, which is like an amplified version of withdrawal, where you're like, you know, you're exorcist sick. You're not normal sick. You're fingering yourself with crucifix sick, you know, and it's scary. You know, when you see dramatic interpretations of withdrawal, like in Trainspotting or Requiem for a Dream. I don't know. Requiem for a Dream's pretty hardcore. He has like one arm. He's like, nobody will love me. And I'm like, oh my God. Jesus, man. You should have gotten on Suboxone or something. That guy is a fucking junkie. Hype, you know. I'm not that bad. I still have my arms, you know. So I'm in this bathroom. I remember I hit this vein on my ankle. Now, usually when you shoot heroin, you put the plunger down and you feel this, like, if it's good heroin, you kind of feel like this string of pins and needle rush go through you. Right? It's not that cool, though. Don't do it. Horrible. One of your fucking arms will fall off. Or you'll just go through a lot of horrible things like I have. Seriously, heroin, it's not, I hope that nobody thinks I'm like romanticizing it. I'm not. I hit this vein on my ankle, and it's the complete opposite of what I'm talking about. There's no blissful surge of pins and needles coursing through my veins. It is cold, chilly, Seattle rain of dope sickness just coursing through your body. So I could actually feel the precipitated withdrawal rising up from my ankle. Oh my, it's like, you know, the hairs on the back of your head stand up. You're just like, oh no, like, you know, you're fucked. Instantly, you know. And that's why a lot of people have trouble transitioning from opiates onto Suboxone, because they're petrified of precipitated withdrawal. If you go to rehab, they're a lot better at timing it. They can give you an Ativan. They can chill you out a little bit, and then they induct you or whatever. And that's what it's called. All right, man. It's time to induct you, Ryan. They're like, induct me. I'm so sick. I want to be inducted. It's really weird shit that you say. Now, one of the primary things with being sick is that you get hot and cold, and it's your body temperature is indecisive. So 1 minute you're freezing cold, like shivering cold. The next minute you're sweating, and there's, you know, sweat pouring off of you. You can never decide if you're hot or cold. And I remember just getting completely naked. Remember, I have a small dick, so it looks weird. You know, I'm just this naked guy, like, spread out, this little ass thing between my legs. I put the cover over me, too hot, sweating. Rip the cover off, now I'm shivering because it's cold. That whole thing. Going back and forth like a fucking schizo. And she comes in. You are such a fucking drug addict. I can't even, I'm like, does it look like I'm high, bitch? I'm going through it. I'm out of Suboxone. She's like, you have 50 strips in the drawer. I'm like, all right, I'm going through precipitated withdrawal. So she starts screaming at me. I'm in this nightmarish state right now. Yeah, the last thing I want to hear is her voice. And if you forget what she sounds like, type in ex-wife is crazy in YouTube. Video will come right up. I think that's on my other channel, like backup channel. She's horrible. That fucking screeching voice while you're dope sick. And it lasts for about 4 hours. So it's like you just go through the most intense withdrawal for about 4 hours and then it's done. His little Christmas Carol thing was like an hour after that. I remember having to like go listen to these like Christmas songs with like Hawaiian renditions of them and shit. They were like doing shit with like lays on and like doing these like aloha, like Merry Christmas. I was like, man, this is, fuck this. All the other parents were in dress clothes. I'm in this like vomit stained t-shirt, you know, just they didn't know I was a junkie. They must have been the biggest squares in the world. I look like Basketball Diaries, you know, I was on one. So the reason that I went off on that little side story, which I probably have told before, is the precipitated withdrawal incident that was probably the worst one I've ever been through. It's happened to me a few other times. Karina's seen me go through it. And you really do get like traumatized by that. You don't want to do it again. So, the flip side of precipitated withdrawal. So that's if you're coming off heroin and you take a Suboxone too soon. You should wait about 15 to 20 hours. You have to be sick. If you're not willing to suck a dude's dick for a fix, you're not sick enough. And then you should be so sick that even if there was a dick to suck, you couldn't even do it because you're just like, bleh, fingering yourself with crucifix sick. You got to be like that. If it's the other side, if you're on Suboxone, which I had taken the day before, remember, just to, you know, I know these videos are spread apart. The day before, Karina had me in the shower. She rolled up a towel and she was nursing me. I don't know why, but it seemed like something that would happen in E.T. No idea why. It's a fucking horrible example, but it was very depressing. She was like petting my hair and I was like shivering naked. It was pretty, you know, it was tragic. And here I am the next day buying a gram, doing a dab of heroin. And I'd already taken a Suboxone the day before. You know, I'd like waited it out. Remember, I'd gone into an Airbnb with Nick, took GHB, took Kratom and stuff, waited and waited and waited. I was sick as fuck by the time I took a Suboxone. So now I had that in my system, and I have this opioid antagonist, this blocker. If you're already on Suboxone and you take heroin, you don't go into precipitated withdrawal. But it's another shitty thing because you go into this like weird purgatory where you're like half dope sick, half not dope sick, but shitty normal feeling. It's like going to work hungover times about 100, but you're not like shitting yourself. And I think that you don't premature ejaculate, but I could be wrong. I'll get back to you on that. But you're in this like weird thing where you're like halfway okay and the other half you're not. That's the condition that I was in when I woke up the next day. Now, Suboxone or buprenorphine, naloxone, whatever, I don't know. I've misrepresented what it is, or, you know, it doesn't really matter. Whatever it is in Suboxone that binds to your opiate receptors is very, very strong, you know. It's a partial opiate antagonist, or it might be, no, I think it's a full, see, I don't need to get into the fucking technical stuff. What it does to your opiate receptors is it's very hard for that Suboxone to leave once it's in there. So it's minimizing the effects of the heroin. So I wake up the next morning and eventually the Suboxone gets out of your system and you can start feeling the heroin like a normal heroin dose again. But it wasn't that way in the morning, and that was my worst fear because I was going to this modeling gig. You know, Karina's being vigilant with me. I'm still not telling her that I'm using. You know, this whole wedding thing is very important to her. Our whole relationship, you know, she's been like, am I your beaner girlfriend? I'm like, babe, don't say that. No, I love you. Well, why aren't I your wife? And I'm like, you know, if we could do that, we would do that. I don't know why we can't. I don't know why I say that, because we could, but I guess we're planning on doing it pretty soon. We might do it on Zoom for Patreon. Thinking about doing it on Halloween and just going to Vegas and getting it done. But I never proposed to her. I didn't give her a ring. A lot of people assumed when we put up these wedding videos that that was our actual wedding, but it wasn't. It was just a modeling gig. People also don't realize how fucking strung out on heroin I was in that video. Go back and look at it where I'm doing like my super fucking metric, my little strut, you know, loaded. And I'm on GHB there too. So I do this shot kind of on the low in the bathroom, and I forget what I'm wearing. I think I'm wearing like a polo shirt and jeans or something. I usually just wear a black wife beater, shorts. That's my steez. It's been like that for a long, long time. You can watch videos of me, the Stephen Gabriel footage from when I was 21. It's the same shit. So we end up going to this ranch. It's probably, 15 miles outside of Santa Barbara. And, well, no, more than that. It's probably like 45 miles, 15 miles. It probably takes about 30 to 40 minutes to get there. So we end up getting to this ranch, and I still have a good amount of the heroin, that I'd gotten the night before. And I brought my needles, I brought spoons, all that. Again, Karina doesn't know that I'm using. So we get there, and a lot of a modeling shoot on the woman's side, even the guy's side, is putting on makeup. And especially with her, they had to do her hair. It's the same kind of preparation work that you'd have if you're on the set of a film. So they take her into like the changing room, they start doing her hair. That's a long process. That takes a long time. 6 hours. Now here I am. They don't get cell phone reception up there. Remember, I'm in this purgatory where I feel like halfway okay. I'm just like, I feel like shit though. I feel really hungover. I'm very achy. It's just not a good feeling. Plus, the depression sets in. So this like cloud of depression, you're like trying to navigate within this gloom. That's post-acute withdrawal from opiates that can last 90 fucking days. You can feel like that. Just where you're like, you look like a bulldog, like you just lost money gambling. You're like, life sucks. 90 days sometimes. So that's how I was. And I tell these people, I'm like, look, so just so you know, the people that are there, they're all like our age, couple gay dudes, couple women that I think right off the bat judged me because I look like shit. I was just like, I look like the guy from the Goonies, it's like, ah. And they're like, oh, hey, are you Karina's manager? I'm like, no, I'm her boyfriend. They're like, oh. I'm like, yeah, I'm modeling today. And you could just tell that they're like, you're modeling? And I'm like, yeah. You haven't heard me talk. Personality. Bomb. Like trying to like do like inside YouTube jokes that I had like 4,000 subscribers. They didn't fucking know what I was talking about. They didn't like me. And that happens a lot. Like, I lost my innocence at a certain point in my life. I used to hang out with like preppy guys and preppy girls, and I used to be like a normal person that would get like a fucking, the latte and talk about Steven Spielberg movies. I'm not that guy anymore. Now I go to a drug dealer's house and there's topless black chicks and just completely with no explanation. It's just like, okay, that's normal. Turned this chick that I went to high school with into like a sex slave. I had to shake her hand. Like, she's completely out of it. That's my life now. I have nothing in common with these people. I explained to them that I have like an important phone call coming up. I'm going to be talking to this production company. I might be getting hired to go on this reality show. They're like, oh yeah, no problem. No problem whatsoever. But you're going to have to use a landline. I'm like, okay. And they're like telling me all these great, you know, they're like, we got this thing catered for you. We'll let you listen to music. We have Now 75. It has, you know, all the greatest pop songs of 2012. I'm like, fuck. Makes it worth the gig all together. You didn't tell me that you had the latest Now. I'm down. They're just telling me shit like that. So I can just tell they're judging me, you know? Some lady judged me today at the fucking doctor's office. I had to check her ass. You know? I was like, do you know who I am? She's like, no. I was like, good answer. I'll have you yelped, bitch. She was like, oh my God. She was horrible. That's a whole nother story. But anyway. Finally get this call, right? I feel out of place. Karina's in the other room, you know, this dressing room getting her hair done or whatever. And I end up talking to one of the producers for this television show that's about jail. And she interviews me. She asked me a bunch of questions, crazy shit. She's like, you know, asking me about my personal political preferences, if I've ever had sex with a transgender person. They didn't even say God. They said that. I was like, no. Does that disqualify me? And she's like, no. No, it does not. Next question. She was asking me, I swear, she was asking shit like that. Probably talked for like 30 minutes, and it was like, she was just asking me questions. Then she starts telling me how that she thinks that I'm perfect. They kind of need somebody that is the lead, you know? Somebody that can kind of carry and orchestrate the rest of the people that they're transplanting into this jail setting for the TV show. They want me to assume that role. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I said, you know, it's something I'm going to have to talk about with my girl. I got to talk it over with my partner. I have a son, you know, at the time he was 1. I have a 1-year-old. They wanted me to go for 90 days. It's a 90-day shoot. I asked about compensation. She said I get $60,000. She's like, does $60,000 sound okay? I try to keep it cool. I was like, yeah. Yeah, that's about my going rate for going on jail reality shows. She's like, you been on other jail reality shows? I'm like, no. No, but I had a number in my mind and you hit it. Later, my manager would be mad. He's like, what the fuck? You take the first number they give you? So I'd agreed to do this for 60 G's. It's a lot of money. You know, you got to think about where I was at the time. It seemed like something I definitely should do. So I'm really excited about this. You know, even though I'm feeling horrible, achy, and that's the thing. Like, I already know what this modeling day is going to look like because of, you know, all right, this is how you model. You stand there. All right, lift your head. A little bit, about ½ inch. All right, a little more. Hey, man, you smoke gay. You got to stop. All right. No cigarette. All right, to the left a little bit. All right. Act like you're thinking about veganism. Like, what? And so they like want you to have a confused look. And then they like, cause they ask you like weird stuff that'll throw you off. And then they get like some like candid organic look or whatever. But you have to do that over and over and over again. Like fucking 1,000 times. This is an all day. This is like 8 hours, 10 hours of doing this. And then at the end, they pick out like 3 of them. They're like, okay, these are our selects, and that's it. And that was the gig we were doing. So I'm all excited because I've just been offered 60 grand. I don't know if I'd ever been offered something where I was going to get immediate 60 G's like that, you know? And like at the time, that seemed like, I mean, that is a lot of money, you know? If someone offered me that right now, I'd be happy about it. You know, I was like in a celebratory mood. So I'm going to, it's like 5 in the morning. I don't know if I want to He's smoking out here to wake my parents up. You know, I'm like going and telling the gay hairdresser guys, and I'm like, babe, I'm talking to Karina, not the guys. I'm like, honey. She's like, how'd the call go? I'm like, it went really well. They want me to pretty much be the uncredited lead of the thing. She's like, really? Are they gonna pay you? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm not gonna do it for free. And she's like, how much? I'm like, 60 grand. And she's like, oh my God. She was so excited. I was like, yeah, I know. I was like, that's what daddy does. He brings the bacon home. She gets so mad when I say daddy, you know, compared to like my exes that would like, I couldn't call them anything. They wouldn't call me anything but daddy. Kate called me poo-poo daddy because she used to do my laundry and there were shit stains in there. But that was like some like sexy pet name she gave me. She's like, you're so beautiful, poo-poo daddy. I'm like, yeah, I know I am. So are you. I love you. And then she left me and I don't want to revisit that pain right now. So Karina finally ends up getting her hair done and she looks stunning. But now we have to do this modeling thing all day long. And it's like the corniest shit. I have to like feed her cherries. She feeds me grapes, you know, there's us dancing. They make the whole thing look like it's a legitimate wedding. It was actually like a very, very well-financed, high-budget thing. And whatever, I was just happy that we had some gig, you know? And so we do all that. We get all the footage. You guys have seen a lot of this stuff. There's also like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos from that day. A lot of that's being used in the documentary and like the closing montage when it shows my life looking a little better than it used to. Because there are some beautiful, loving images from that. Now, there was a certain point in the day, so they catered it. Like I said, it was like a well-financed thing. They had catered it and, you know, we had taken a break. And then after, they're like, okay, we're going to do the hardest part next. We're going to all have to hike about 1.5 miles from here up this mountain. We're going to take these beautiful, you know, scenic pictures, but you're going to have to hike and you're going to have to take your dress shoes off. Like I basically had to hold them. She had to hold her dress up. It was horrible. I was already sick. And that's pretty much, you know, how the day ended up being. You know, we end up going up on this hill. One thing that is notable about that is I had started to do a bunch of shots, you know, while Karina was getting her hair done. So before we had gone up on the mountain to take pictures, I did a bunch of shots in the bathroom and the Suboxone was dissipating to some degree. I was starting to get higher, but I still wasn't feeling high. I was just getting like the kind of like nodding out effects of heroin. And I couldn't find any veins. I was already at that point where I didn't have any veins. So I was having to muscle it in my ass cheek. Now, when you muscle heroin, you don't have to find a vein. You just stick it in your butt cheek and and it burns and it hurts. And then you get these welts. Like there's been periods in my life where I've muscled so much heroin and there's so many welts in my ass that I have to like drive with one of those donuts that like elderly people have, you know? I'm like, and then it has like some sleazy handle on it. So I'm like walking around with my donut with like prune juice in the other hand. It's ridiculous. And that particular day, there was a lot of different photographs that got taken of like her sitting on my lap. And I had these big welt muscle abscesses from where I was like injecting heroin into my ass cheek. I remember it being so uncomfortable. And I started getting higher and higher. So by the time we went up on this mountain, I'm pretty much nodding out while they're taking photos of me. There's a lot of outtake photos. I'll try to find them and, you know, publish them on Patreon so you guys can get a sense of what I look like. Because it was absurd. You know, there's like stuff where like she's like, you know, going in to kiss me and I'm just full blown like, and you like, and then the photographer's assistant will come up to me and snap her finger. Ryan, wake up. I'm like, oh, sorry. I'm constipated. You know, I'd say something that was just totally like not a valid excuse of why I like look narcoleptic up on this fucking mountain. You know, it's just, I don't know. I don't think there was any way to explain my behavior except for that I was on heroin. It's the only thing I looked like. I looked like a straight up heroin junkie, which I was. Plus, I had taken GHB sometime. You know, I was taking caps full of it. That's, you know, a date rape drug, essentially. So that really made me out of it, too. So I think that's why I was nodding so hard. Karina's just like, God, you're embarrassing me. They know that you're on drugs. And so after that, we go back down the mountain. I had this pair of Ray-Bans. I love these pair of Ray-Bans. Karina had gotten them for me as a gift, I think, when I got out of prison. She gave me a pair of Ray-Bans and some, like, Adidas track fucking pants that I never wear because it makes me look like some sort of Guido thug. You know, I already have, like, shit like this, and I wear my grandfather's bracelet. I already look like a Guido thug with my wife beaters and shit. I cannot have tracksuit fucking pants. You know, it just completely screws my aesthetic up. So, these Ray-Bans, I end up leaving down the hill. Some guys come to do maintenance work. These Hispanic gentlemen. Straight paisas. Look like, you know, maybe grew up working on a farm and, you know, the mountainy towns of Mexico or something. I mean, that is some very racial profiling, judgmental stuff to say, but my son is half Mexican, so I feel entitled to some degree to be able to say stuff like that. And you already know how I feel. I'm not a racist guy. Although every time I say something that could be perceived as racist, the fact that I acknowledge it kind of makes me racist, doesn't it? I don't know. I'm not, so I need to work on that. Get down the hill, Ray-Bans are missing, you know? And I throw a tantrum. I'm high on GHB, I'm high on heroin. And I was like, it's the Mexican workers. I'm saying shit like that, right? And Karina's like, Jesus Christ, shut the fuck up. I'm like, who else would it be? I highly doubt that it's the photographer making $75 an hour. It's the goddamn help. You know, I'm saying shit like that. Karina's like, the help? What are we? We're not in 1890, right? You can't say shit like that. I'm high as shit saying this, by the way. I'm like, it's the help. That was kind of like the end of our being welcomed at this shoot. They'd already gotten all the photographs they needed. We were still supposed to do like some like altar ceremony photo thing. But after I kind of made these very loud accusations about the Hispanic gentlemen that were doing landscaping work, pretty sure we were asked to leave. I don't remember specifically. All I remember is going to Jack in the Box after because I was hungry because I was all GHB'd out. And Karina was like yelling at me, telling me what an embarrassment I was. You know, she's like, the Ray-Bans I got you were fake. So I was like, what the fuck? You're just, oh, checks out. You're just telling me that now, huh? She's like, you're so embarrassing. You were calling the Mexican guys to help. You're a piece of shit. I'm like, whatever. So now I'd relapsed back on heroin again. And of course, the entire cycle starts over. We were staying in Santa Barbara another night. Throughout that day, I had probably gotten rid of my entire gram. Whatever the case, I had to meet up with my drug dealer again. Now, I wasn't sick when I went over there this time, right? So, on the way over to his house, you know, I called him. I'm like, hey, I need to come over and grab another gram. Yeah, no problem. Come over. On the way over there, I'm thinking in my head of what the possibilities of the naked girls being at his house would be. A, they're just some hedonistic, you know, free-loving, let's be naked and do drugs people. Doubt it, because that's only shit that you see like on, you know, weird like HBO documentaries about like exotic drug cults and like South America, you know. You don't see stuff like that. I'd never come across in all my years in the drug culture. Second is that he had them drugged out as some sort of like sexualized zombies. Now, I knew a guy before, my competition drug dealer when I was in Santa Barbara back in like 2007, 2008. And he had some girl strung out on PCP, and he like controlled her that way. He's like, look, she sucks my dick and then she'll bark like a dog. Do it. And she'd be like, all right. And then she'd just start barking. I'm like, geez, I just want to get high, man. I don't need to see all this weird shit. So that was the second possibility. The third possibility that I was thinking was that they were prostitutes and they worked for him. Now, I had experience because I had been exposed to Mike Virgin and that whole thing. So you got to remember that that's in my background. So I'm automatically going to think that shit's nefarious to that level. And I guess the fourth, probably least likely scenario of why he had these girls in that kind of situation was that he was like on some weirdo serial killer shit or so. I don't know. I mean, I'd run into kind of some weird situations like that as well. I had this friend that I grew up with. We were in kindergarten together, kindergarten through about 6th grade. And he was always a bad kid. This guy would like stab people in the leg with sharpened pencils, shit like that. He's bad. He's actually a good guy now. I'm still friends with him to this day. But at one particular time, something weird had happened with him. We reconnected in county jail. And we hung out every day in there. We were probably locked up together a couple months. This is when I was 18. Hadn't seen him since I was probably 12. Of course, he went on to be a troublemaker just like me. He was always a bad kid. You know, I wasn't, but he stayed consistent. And that summer, I didn't have a car. I lived with my parents. And one day, you know, we were always hanging out. We'd be taking the bus. We'd go to the skate park together. We did a lot of meth. We did a lot of heroin. One day he picks me up in a truck. You know, I don't know if I've ever told you guys this one, but he picks me up in a truck. I'm like, damn, man, that's a nice truck. I don't know a lot about cars, but it was a nice pickup truck. It was like a newer one. I think it was a Dodge or something. He's like, yeah, but it's my uncle's. He gave it to me. It's like, all right, cool. So that summer we had like a pretty wild, drugged out summer. It's right after my first girlfriend had dumped me. And I end up going back to jail. He ends up going back to jail. And that's that, right? But that's not the end of the story. I'm in jail one day. I'm pretty sure I talked about this. And I get called. Some detectives come to see me. I get called up to the podium to talk to the CO. They go, hey, so some people are here to talk to you. She didn't tell me what. I end up going into this interrogation room. There's 2 detectives, homicide detectives. They show me a picture of the truck. Right away, I recognized it. They're like, do you know, have you ever been in this truck? I was like, nope. No idea. Never seen that before. They're like, huh, that's interesting. Because we found a piece of your mail inside of it. They had it like in a plastic bag. I was like, fuck. I was like, well, that doesn't prove anything. That just proves that somebody had a piece of my mail. A lot of mail fraud. A lot of packages and envelopes get intercepted every year. Then they show me a girl. And they told me that she had died. And that her purse was found in that truck. And that truck had been stolen. And they say my friend's name. And they asked me if I knew anything about that. This is about murder. And I was like, no. So this girl got murdered. Her purse was in the back of the stolen truck. So was my mail. I was tripping. I was like, I'm not going to say anything else without an attorney. Never heard about that again, right? So you got to understand, I had been around some pretty dangerous people. Mike Virgin. You know, I stabbed a skinhead when I was 18, which was right around this time. Right around the time that I was talking about with the truck. This, what I'm talking about right now, just happened 6 months ago. Stabbed the skinhead, the Mike Virgin. I've been in and out of jail a few times at that point. Shit, I've been to federal prison already. I think I've been to federal prison twice, 3 fucking times. Jesus Christ. I'm like trying to remember that this didn't happen very long ago. You know, I'd already endured everything at this point. So in my mind, automatically it's going to go to a suspicious place. I end up getting to his, you know, down the street from his house. I always do that when I'm going to any house where somebody's selling drugs on like a big level. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I had told you, this wasn't a guy that sold a gram or 2 of heroin. This is a guy that was selling a couple pounds a week. You know, the last thing I want to do is show up. There's cops there. I get entangled in some bullshit because I'm trying to get a gram. Because I'm a junkie. And I end up getting another sales, guilty by association, conspiracy, or whatever. I go down the street, I call. No answer. Now, I'm not sick, but still the onset of panic that I won't be able to get more comes in. And I'm like, fuck. You know, heroin is a lot more expensive in Santa Barbara. It can be 120, 140 a gram. It's 40 to 80 a gram in LA. So I could get heroin at other places, but this guy was giving them to me for pretty much LA prices because he was a big time dealer. And I think I was low on money at the time. He doesn't pick up. I'm panicking. I drive up to the house and there's about 6 cops outside. Now at first I'm like, okay, well, you know, probably got buzzed. He's a fucking big time drug dealer, you know? I see them putting the tape around the house. They do that when a murder happens. They also do it for rape. I've seen it happen in rape situations. I don't see him. I don't see the girls, but there's quite a few cops there. And I just keep driving because I'm dope sick. And I'm like, fuck, right? I have no idea at this point what that's about. All I know is that I go there, bunch of cops, they're setting up a crime scene. So something major had gone on there. And we can get into that in the next installment of this. And this isn't going to be the kind of series where there's just like a couple of videos this month. I'm going to go, we can keep going and going and going with this storyline, especially with this particular situation, because there's some things about it that I've never talked about. Yeah, I think you'll find it of interest. And just because I've been slacking the last couple of days because I've been busy, this one will be for all tiers. But I'm going to do one more on the Wasting Talent series. That's a new storyline. And then I'm going to start giving each tier the exclusive stories that we had started. Florida, China, what really happened, Finnish Burning Man. We got psychedelics. And we got the new one coming up. Probably record that today. Wasting Talent. I love you guys. I'm tired as fuck. It's probably 5:30 in the morning now. I'm gonna compress this video and try to upload it. I have no idea how my parents' Wi-Fi is, but I'm getting it up, rain or shine. Palabra.